Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. On today's show, what to make of Jerry Jones saying Ezekiel Elliott is a victim of overcorrection. Plus, will Bill Belichick and the Patriots regret trading Jimmy Garoppolo? And is it too early to start worrying about the struggling Cleveland Cavaliers? Skip, Shannon, let's get to it. Let's start with the latest on Ezekiel Elliott. Yesterday, a judge rejected Elliott's latest appeal. The Players Association then filed another appeal with the Second Circuit Court. We're still waiting for that ruling. And earlier in the day, Jerry Jones went on the radio to criticize Roger Goodell's handling of the suspension. Let's take a listen.
The ruling really has more to do with the scope of the commissioner's authority and not really a bearing on whether Zeke is guilty of domestic violence or not, and that's where this stuff gets so convoluted, let's say. But I think that, again, I am very troubled by the swings that we've had, that this very thing the judge in this case ratified for the commissioner, but his swing of judgment has been unbelievable, from the Ray Rice thing all the way up to 1 or 2 games, all the way up to a 6-game suspension, when you've truly got a debate. In our system in this country, Zeke would not have any issue here of his workplace. And I emphasize that because there's a difference in that in law. But I will tell you, with the knowledge I have, the circumstances aren't treating him fair. 2 years ago, this wouldn't be an issue. I'm sure he'd like to take back his initial Ray Rice stance and a few others. And he's in the process of having tried to correct that. And in doing so, Zeke is a victim of an overcorrection.
Shannon, does Jerry have a point?
First, I want to say I don't think there can be an overcorrection for domestic violence in America. So let's get that on the record. He has a point. But here's the thing, Skip. The NFL had to take this serious because they didn't have anything on the books, because they didn't anticipate having to deal with such a large societal issue. Sports are not they don't go into business thinking they're going to have to deal with these types of issues. Okay, how do we make sure our players are not betting, throwing, fixing games? How do we make sure we can make a lot of money, generate revenue, and put the best product on the field we possibly can? Domestic violence and some of these things that we've seen pop up over the last couple of years was not on the books that they felt they would have to deal with. Here's the thing, though, Skip. This is what you have to look at. And I get Jerry. Jerry is very frustrated. He has a vested interest in this. The only thing that matters is that when 2011, after the lockout, when the owners unanimously gave Roger Goodell this power, and 31 of 32 teams gave Commissioner Goodell this power, the only person that it matters to whether or not domestic violence occurred is him. You decided in 2011 that he could be the judge, the jury, and the executioner, and he can be the appellate court officer, so to speak, in this case. You gave him those powers. So what Kia Roberts thinks, what Lisa Friel thinks, what Jerry Jones thinks, it doesn't matter. If Roger Goodell believes that domestic violence occurred, he must give him 6 games. See, Jerry didn't have a problem, because, right, Skip, in 2014, before this, there was nothing on the books of dealing with domestic violence. Let me give you a little backdrop. Previously, Commissioner Tagliabue, who held this office before Commissioner Goodell, it was 2 games, Skip. That's what they got. It was 2 games. Roger Goodell was just following suit. Commissioner Tagliabue and Commissioner Rozelle before him, it was basically 2 games. Then the tape comes out. Now he tries to go back and suspend him indefinitely, and the judge, Ray Rice, goes to court. The judge says, look, this tape did not show a new act. It highlighted something that you had already punished him for. We can't do anything about it. I mean,
the flashpoint there was the NFL said it did not have the tape when clearly it would have had. It's the National Football League. It would have acquired the tape. Go ahead.
They could have.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't want to know. But that's not the issue right here, right now, Skip. And Commissioner Goodell is in a very, very tough situation because the NFL's old policy was we're going to let law enforcement, we're going to let this process run its course. Okay, it runs its course, and law enforcement didn't charge. Outcry. I can't believe it. You're a private entity. You're a private business. You can do something even if law enforcement doesn't. Commissioner Goodell says, you know what? You're right. We're going to have our own arms. So whatever law enforcement decide to do, if they don't decide to do anything, that's on them. But because you play in the NFL, we're going to take precedent. Okay, boom. Law enforcement, South Florida, Columbus, say, oh, ain't nothing here. Commissioner Goodell said, we're going to do our own investigation. So now, before, he was going to let law enforcement handle it. No, you need to intervene. He steps in. He doesn't want law enforcement to handle it. You need to let law enforcement handle it. He can't win.
You left out a key detail, though. He did have his director of investigations interview the accuser not once or twice, but 6 times. What did she find? Not credible, no suspension.
And the CBA says that the commissioner does not have to add any more weight to anyone's testimony.
Did the commissioner interview the accuser?
It doesn't.
Did Harold Henderson? Was she present at the appeals process?
Does the CBA specify that he must interview the accuser? Does it specify that the appellate officer must interview the accuser? As remember, the judge says she is not obligated to give them any extra contractual obligation that is not adhered to in the CBA. And that's what you're asking. You're asking for favors that they could have negotiated. Now they're trying to litigate it. It's not going to work. Your turn.
I take big exception to the very first point you made. You said that when it comes to domestic violence in this country, you cannot have an overcorrection. I'm sorry, you can if the accused is innocent as charged. That's an overcorrection.
We don't know that, Skip.
So we want to brand him as a domestic abuser if, in fact, he didn't do anything because you just need to overcorrect it because it's domestic violence and you got to take a stand against domestic violence. Who doesn't think that?
Hold on, Skip. You talk about overcorrection. Ray Rice was the overcorrection. He lost his career. Zeke is only going to lose 6 games. That's the overcorrection. He missed the point.
Okay, but that was because this commissioner is never ahead of the curve. He's never heading off the crisis at the past. He's never seeing it before it happens.
How could he foresee domestic violence?
Reacting. He's reacting. Well, they should have been way ahead. This has been going on for years and years. Do you know how many cases have slipped under the carpet?
Baseball, NBA, nobody had a domestic violence thing, a policy in place until Ray Rice incident. So why didn't they head it off at the curve? Why hadn't America headed off at the curve? Oh, okay.
Okay, well, no, the problem here is that clearly, I've been saying this for months, Jerry Jones said exactly what I've been saying, that clearly after the Ray Rice fiasco, and it was a fiasco for this league. You disagree with that?
Oh, no question about it.
Thank you very much.
And then you had Greg Hardy and you got Adrian Peterson on top of that.
So clearly, Roger Goodell is not now trying to save face by making an example of a breakout star in Ezekiel Elliott without credible or conclusive proof or evidence. Period. End of story. So he's overcorrecting what he didn't do with Ray Rice, Greg Hardy, as you say, and then with Josh Brown. And in this case, it smacks of Deflategate, except in Deflategate, he was just trying to destroy the reputation, sacrifice the reputation of the greatest quarterback ever, but he was just accused of cheating and lying about it, of deflating a football. This is domestic violence. So we've gone to the most serious issue here.
Absolutely.
And again, this is where you have to be even more careful. And as you point out, not one but 2 police departments interviewed the accuser and found her not credible. Then Kia Roberts, and remember her background, 8 years, the assistant DA in Brooklyn, after she graduated from Duke undergrad and Vanderbilt Law School. She chose not to join a high-powered law firm. She had such backbone, she said she wanted to go fight for justice at the lowest, toughest level in Brooklyn as an assistant DA, and she handled domestic violence case after domestic violence case, and she was the only member of the NFL office, as she had just recently been hired as the Director of Investigations by Roger Goodell and Lisa Friel. She was the only member of that front office to interview the accuser 6 times and found her not credible. But Kia Roberts was cut out of the final meeting in which the punishment was decided upon by Roger Goodell, Lisa Friel, and others, except for Kia Roberts. So she went out on her own and contacted the NFL Players Association and said, will you let me testify at the appeals hearing? Well, sure we will. So she basically blew the whistle on her 2 bosses in the appeals process, and still that didn't matter. Harold Henderson says the suspension stands.
Because he was not compelled. The CBA is not compelled
right. Now
to
let's
have you
get to that
cross-examine.
CBA.
Yep.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
So now the plot thickens, or I should say sickens, because you want to talk about outrageous, you want to talk about unfair. Now we find out that the husband of Judge Fela, who threw this case out of her court in Manhattan the other day, the husband of Judge Fela works for the law firm that negotiated the CBA for the National Football League against the Players Association back in, when was it, 2011. And that law firm forged the document with which she referred to throw Zeke's case out of court. Now, this is the same Judge Fela who back in 2012, when she took her judgeship, signed a judicial questionnaire that says, my husband is a partner for the law firm of Proskauer Rose. I would recuse myself from any cases in which Proskauer Rose is a party or representing a party. Does this not qualify as that? Is this not a classic conflict of interest? Is this not at least a hint of impropriety? Are you kidding me? So she was on vacation. She had a couple of weeks to sit back and think, you know what, this is, if nothing else, is just a bad look because my husband works for that law firm that represents the National Football League. This just looks bad. I think I recuse myself because remember, in her southern district, there are 42 other possible judges you could have used to handle this case. And what happened, Shannon Sharpe? She handled it, and she just rubber-stamped the NFL's opinion and said, get out of my courtroom. After the Texas judge had argued, in his opinion, that this was eminently unfair, she said this was completely fair. Get out of my courtroom. Really?
So I just want to make sure.
You love this, Shannon?
No, hold on.
You've crusaded for judicial reform in this country, especially when it comes to how it's served upon black people in this country. And here is, I'll give you a wealthy young black man, but he gets thrown out of court on an obvious conflict of interest. Aren't you outraged by this? I would think you would be. But no, you seem to be defending the National Football League and the collective bargaining agreement.
Here's the thing, Skip.
My God.
I just want to ask you this. Why haven't we heard Jerry Jones speak out in other cases in which Roger Goodell has decided?
Okay, keep it here. Do you like this? You didn't answer.
Okay.
Do you like it? Do you like her conflict of interest? Should she have recused herself?
I'm going to get to that, Skip.
Well, don't change the subject.
I'm not going to change the subject, Skip. If there was a problem, what the standard that the NFL uses, they adopted this policy in 2008. 32 owners said anybody that falls up under the umbrella, preponderance of the evidence, more probable than not. So basically 51%. If Commissioner Goodell, because remember, he's the judge, the jury, and the executioner, and the appellate officer. If he believes by more probable than not that it occurred, he gets to ride with it. And I'm glad you brought that up because her husband worked at the law firm. But it was brought to my attention in that same article that you failed to mention that Richard Berman, who ruled in favor of Tom Brady 2 years ago, it came to light that Judge Berman was present at a party attended by Robert Kraft. I mean, hey, who knows? Anything could have happened. It also came to people's attention that Judge Berman, a guy worked in the same law. Hold on, let me finish.
No, but they just wound up at the same party.
Okay.
It wasn't Robert Kraft inviting him to the party. They just happened to be at the same party.
Can I finish?
Is that like your husband working for the law firm that defends the NFL?
It also was brought to light that Robert Kraft and a person who worked in the same law firm as Judge Berman from 1970 to 1974.
This is absurd.
Hold on, Skip. But are you going to let me talk? Stop talking over me. I didn't talk over you.
Okay, but in the article, they were pointing out how far-fetched that was. That was Mike Florio's article on, what is it called, Pro Football Talk, and he was talking about how petty that was.
The same article that you got that interview from.
Okay, but he's saying, this isn't petty, that was petty.
Oh, it's petty.
That's how he characterized it. Well, that's how he wrote it.
Because, that's his...
Tell the people what he wrote.
That's the summation.
What he wrote.
That's the summation. But I'm just saying, Skip, she is her husband representing the NFL in this case now.
No, but he's a partner in the law firm, and she signed the declaration. If there's any hint of impropriety, I'm out.
Can I ask you a question?
Should she have recused herself, Shannon Sharpe?
No, she didn't have to.
Please.
No, she doesn't have to.
You should be outraged over this.
I'm outraged that you're out. Okay, how about this here? Let me read something else. See, you won't let me finish my statement. This is what Jerry Jones said about Roger Goodell in 2015 on Deflategate. Obviously, he has a very tough job. Now I see people doing that. It's the old violin, people feeling sorry for themselves. But this is why we pay him the big bucks to deal with big problems. Later in the same interview, Joy Taylor, he said, you know you have to make some tough decisions that's going to be very unpopular to a particular group. Owners. That's what's happening in this case. That's what he said about Mr. Bob Kraft in 2015 about Deflategate. He had no sympathy. He had no problem with Roger Goodell ruling. Now, guess what? Mr. Goodell came knocking on his door. Now, all of a sudden, he has too much power. All of a sudden, now, he's grasping at straws. You should have brought this to the attention in 28 when preponderance of the evidence was ruled that would be the law of the land. I get it, Jerry. You're right. If this was in a normal society, but the NFL is different. The CBA is the law of the land that you ratified with other 31 owners, 32-0 unanimously. So don't come crying poor me now.
Unless you're crying about something that deserves to be cried about. Do you believe that Zeke is guilty of domestic violence?
It doesn't matter what I believe. It only matters what you can prove. Commissioner Goodell believes it, Skip. That's how it works.
Do you like that?
I believe George Zimmerman murdered Trayvon Martin, but it doesn't matter what I believe. They couldn't get a conviction. It matters what you can prove. Roger Goodell believes it. That's all that matters. And you getting all these, Skip, you're in your feelings. I get it. It's the Cowboys.
This is outrageous, and you know
I get it, Skip.
You know what? Your emotions are so mixed about this.
I ain't got no mixed emotions. I'm just telling you what the CBA says, and that's what I'm going by. You want to throw out the CBA now? It's been binding since 2011. There have been so many guys that's come before Commissioner Goodell and said the process was unfair, but nobody had a problem with it. He's always had these powers.
Tom Brady had a huge problem with it and took it all the way to the Court of Appeals, where this case now rests because they did yesterday get this filed in time in the Court of Appeals.
How did it end up for Tom Brady?
He backed out at the last second. I know for a fact because I was close to people on the team. They were poised to go to the Supreme Court with it, but the season was approaching, and he said, I can't do this to my football team.
This is what we know for a fact. All that other stuff is conjecture, speculation, and innuendo.
But I would tell you
he missed 4 games.
You know what? Tom Brady went a long way toward clearing his reputation because he won at the level of this woman's court. It wasn't her, it was Judge Berman who did it, but he laughed the NFL out of court, which sent the NFL to the appeals process in the Second Circuit.
Okay, can you answer me this? If I were to do something and I get convicted at a lower state court and I go to the appeals court and they overturn it, can you tell the people what would happen to me? I get to go free. At the lower level, they overturned it. He went to the appeals court, they reinstated it. So what happened?
You could take it if you could get the Supreme Court to hear it.
I don't know if you could do, but I'm telling you, would you tell the people what happened? What did Tom Brady end up doing?
They were poised to go to the Supreme Court, and the season was upon them. And Tom Brady said, for the sake of my football team, because I've become too big a distraction, I'm going to eat the 4 games, and then I'm going to make Roger Goodell eat that trophy. And did he do it?
Skip.
Did he do it? Was he not on a mission?
There is not a distraction big enough that I would not go through to clear my name. That's me.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, that's what I'm riding on.
That's what Ezekiel Elliott is doing as we speak.
Skip, I'm not saying I disagree with what he's doing. I don't have a problem with him fighting. I think you're trying to imply that I have a problem with him fighting it. I don't. I'm trying to explain to you.
I know exactly what it is. But see, at some point, the court system in this country supersedes that collective bargaining. It does. In the end, Jerry Jones is saying any citizen of this country deserves to get a fair appeals process, even under whatever the collective bargaining says.
But then why did Jerry agree to it?
And that's why the first judge in Texas looked at it and said, this is laughable. He did not get a fair shake.
And the judge said, had he not gone through this process, if Commissioner Goodell would have just suspended Zeke without hearing any testimony, without having a process, now we're on to something. Now I'm worried about this. She said, but he followed the rules. You went through the process. He's under no obligation to let you cross-examine the alleged victim. He's under no obligation to let you cross-examine him or the appeals officer. Skip, you're asking for something that's not in the CBA.
So here's the final elephant in the room. Roger Goodell got one huge break in this case, and it happened on St. Patrick's Day when video was captured of Ezekiel Elliott pulling that woman's top down during the celebration up on the rooftop.
You blame Roger Goodell or Zeke?
No, I'm just saying it's all about perception is reality. So the public is ready to leap to the conclusion, if you're capable of doing that, you're certainly capable of committing domestic abuse, domestic violence.
Yeah, that's what people leap to.
So all of a sudden, Roger Goodell had one piece of video that worked in his favor. Does that mean that he did commit domestic abuse? It doesn't mean, you know, it's not, you can't leap to that conclusion.
If you know you're under investigation, why would you do something like that? Zeke knew he was under investigation.
I can't a lot of
but
things
if Zeke had been suspended for that, no one would be arguing.
Hold on, don't forget. He did mention it. Now, he said it had no bearing.
In his letter to Zeke, he mentioned it.
Well, it's impossible for that to not have any bearing.
I don't know if you would it qualify as domestic violence?
No.
Just
personal
conduct unbecoming?
Yeah, personal conduct.
I mean, some people will call it sexual assault,
they
but
would.
I mean, there's three things operating here. First, the NFL and Roger Goodell are always reactionary, as you said. They're never ahead of the curve when it comes to these things. But it seems as if, A, they're too far in this to back out and admit that they messed it up, or B, there's another shoe to drop, and it did actually happen, and the alleged victim in this case just doesn't want what actually happened to be released. There's the only two things operating. There's no other option. Either he did it and they just haven't been transparent, or he didn't do it and they're too far in to back out of it now. But the issue with them not being transparent, which the league and Goodell need to understand, is that by not being transparent to the public, you leave things up for assumption, which sets back the awareness for domestic violence.
But that's what got him in this, Joy, reacting to the public, because they said law enforcement, the NFL used to let law enforcement run its course. And then it didn't run the course that the public didn't want.
There's flaws with the law enforcement process when it comes to domestic violence anyway, because you get run into he said, she said situations. But that's not the point. The NFL is held to a different standard because of
we hold the NFL higher than law enforcement because we still have.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that public figures like NFL players are held to a different standard, and because of the CBA, Roger Goodell has the leeway to make those decisions.
No mercy.
This is Shannon Sharpe, and before the show moves along, a quick word about Home Depot and Husky Tools. They say in life there are no guarantees. Well, I'm here to tell you there just might be one exception. In 1924, Husky started making things for people who make things, and they did it with common sense. That meant adding function, never frills, and making tools that stood the test of time. 93 years later, Husky is still making quality-crafted, durable tools, and Husky stands by their hand tools for life, so they gave their hand tools a lifetime warranty. Like the Husky Ratchet, with a 100-position ratcheting design and a 10% longer handle than standard ratchets, or the virtually unbreakable Husky Flashlight with the ability to withstand a 30-foot drop, both guaranteed for a lifetime, built so you won't need it. Now that's a pretty sure thing, and to Husky, that's common sense. Husky, common sense tools since 1924, with hand tools guaranteed for a lifetime, found only at the Home Depot.
No mercy.
Patriots made a major move yesterday, sending backup quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo to the 49ers for a second-round pick. Garoppolo is set to be a free agent at the end of the season and turns 26 tomorrow, while Tom Brady turned 40 in August. Yesterday, Bill Belichick made it seem like the team's hands were tied. Let's take a listen.
We probably had, in my opinion, the best quarterback situation in the league for the last, call it 2.5 years. It's just not sustainable given the way that things are set up. It's definitely not something that we wanted to walk away from, and I felt like we rode it out as long as we could. We, over a period of time, explored every option possible to try to sustain it, but at this point, felt like we had to make a decision.
Shannon, what do you make of Belichick's comments?
He made it abundantly clear that they tried to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, and Garoppolo was a nice insurance policy. And to the viewers at home, Skip, when I first got into my senior year, my brother took out an insurance policy through Lloyd's of London. And my first couple of years, I had that policy. But as I was getting old,
Wait, he took it out on,
he took
himself.
he took it out on me.
You when
I was at Savannah State.
Okay,
to make sure if something happened,
Yeah,
I'll be taken care of. In my first couple of years, he paid it, and then for a couple of years, I paid it. But I started looking at the premiums were going up. It just became cost prohibitive, and that's what this became. They realized that once he refused that contract extension, Jimmy Garoppolo says, I'm a starter. And guys, I think it's really nice of you that you guys want me to be the bridge between Tom Brady and moving forward. But I want to start. And I don't know how long. I mean, he's talking about 45. Guys, I can't stay on the bench another 4 or 5 years. Those 4 or 5 years I'll never get back. I'm a starter now. Coach Belichick realized I better try to get something for him because he's going to walk in free agency, and that compensatory pick is not going to be a second rounder.
No.
So Coach Belichick says, hey, I'm sorry, but this is what I got to do. And I understand it. That's what Coach Belichick was basically saying. He said, guys, we did everything we possibly could to try to keep Jimmy because we realize what he is, but it just became cost prohibitive. We're not going to franchise him $25 million. We're not going to give him $50, $60 million guaranteed. Tom Brady is $22 million over the next 2 years, 22 in cap hit, $22 million in 18, $22 million in 19, $40 million. You mean to tell me you're going to pay us back up 50 guaranteed? No, you're not going to do that. So I might as well trade him, get something of value. They're 0-8. I don't think they're going to go on an 8-game winning streak, even with Jimmy Garoppolo. So that second-round pick is going to be somewhere between 33 and probably 40. More likely 33 to 35.
That's correct.
So Coach Belichick that's a pretty good pick. Well, we go to playoffs like we normally do. We might be able to package that late first-round pick and that early second-round pick. We might like somebody we can move up and take. Coach Belichick is always thinking, and basically he rolled the dice in both situations. He's like, I believe Tom Brady's going to stay healthy, and I believe this is what I can get for Jimmy Garoppolo, and it won't come back to bite me. It's just hard to tell with the shots that he's taken on that 40-year-old body, Skip. You've seen him take some shots this year that you never saw him take last year, and just how many more of those he's going to take. And you might not miss him this year, but I believe 2018, you're probably going to miss him because when it happens, when a guy steps off that cliff, especially at that position, it happens fast. It's not a gradual, slow, cruising to the brick wall. You step off the cliff and it's over.
So my bottom line to everything I heard yesterday was Bill Belichick lost to Tom Brady. I think it was a quiet battle going on between the two of them. In part, it's a PR battle, and Belichick lost it pretty badly. And yesterday, I found him to be as verbose, as forthcoming as I've ever heard him in a press conference situation, because he was like a veritable chatterbox. He just went on and on. We don't ever hear him talk like that.
Heaping praise on Jimmy.
He was heaping praise on Jimmy because it hurt him to let this kid go.
Yes.
And his hands got tied and forced by the performance of Tom Brady. I thought it was interesting. Mike Reese, who covers the Patriots for ESPN.com, wrote a piece, and the headline is, Jimmy Garoppolo's greatest impact, sparking Tom Brady to a higher level. That's what was going on. Tom Brady was on the clock. He was on the hot seat this year, and he knows it, and he responds well to that kind of a challenge.
Yes.
So to me, when Bill Belichick says, I played this out, I waited as long as I could, he was waiting to see just a hint, some first initial sign of aging or decline in Tom Brady.
16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I don't know if Jimmy, 16 touchdowns, 7, 8 interceptions. I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo, 16 and 2.
Yeah, 16 and 2?
Yeah, Jimmy, I'm sorry. We can't, and plus, they're up against it, Skip. The trade deadline is, they've already moved it back. I don't see the NFL moving it back another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they were up against the clock.
Okay.
And I'm sure he promised Jimmy, just stand pat. But Jimmy see all that money out there. Jimmy says, I got to go get me some of that.
And I don't blame him for
No!
that. No. So Bill Belichick knew that his defense, especially for the first 4 or 5 games, had been a disaster. And that's on Belichick. And it's starting to come together, starting to figure it out. But he also knew that Brady lost Edelman. And he hasn't had Gronk, who's been in and out of the lineup.
Correct.
And doesn't quite look like Gronk.
Yeah.
And he knows the offensive line hasn't been quite what it was last year because,
correct.
to your point, Brady's gotten rocked a few
Right.
times, a lot more than last year. So, given all that, he knows that they are, what are they, 6 and 2.
Correct.
in large part because of the performance of the 40-year-old quarterback.
Yes.
So his hands are so tied that it's upon you. You're halfway, 8 games in, and the trade deadline's on top of you, and he just had to say, okay, I'll just take whatever's left on the table. And it happened to be a high second-round pick.
Yes.
Not a bad pick, but if you had pulled this trigger before the draft, I'm still convinced you would have gotten much more than this.
Because here's the thing, though, Skip. If Cleveland was offering a second and third for A.J. McCarron, I believe you could have got at least a first at some point during the offseason, at least coming up to the draft. You could have got.
Yes, again, Belichick wanted 2 firsts reportedly.
Right.
I'm pretty sure you could have gotten a first and a second for Jimmy G before the draft.
Right. Because my thing is, Skip, for me, you go, normally what happens is they go to the guy and they try to get him extended because they want to get him under wraps so he doesn't get on the market. Because once he hits the market, teams are going to pay double to get the guy, because why else would he leave a system that he's familiar with, a community that he's familiar with, to leave for the same money? So you got to pay time and a half to get the guy to leave. He knew once Jimmy got to free agency, he was gone. But here's the thing. Once you go to him in the offseason and say, Jimmy, we'd like to get you extended because we want you to be the bridge from Tom moving forward, and he says no, you got to start the process. He's not going to change his mind, Skip. You think Steve Young was happy to sit on the bench behind Joe Montana when he thought he could play? No. This is why Tom takes every snap, because Tom knew how he got the job. Tom was also fighting that suspension, Skip, because he didn't want this guy to go out there and play lights out, because that's how he got the job. And how you get the job, you definitely don't want to lose it like that. That's why these guys, Peyton Manning, all these guys, Drew Brees, all these guys, if you notice, Skip, you're like, why are they out there? They're up by 14 with 2 minutes to go. Because they don't want you to even look. The only thing you're going to see that guy doing is throwing scout team reps. You're not going to see him with this real offense in a real live situation.
That's true.
So Tom understands that. But Jimmy wants to, Skip, he's probably about 25. He wants to play. Yep. He wants to start. He believes he's a starter, and rightfully so. And there's so much money. I know it's great. I'm going to get a chance to I'm always going to be in the playoffs, get a chance to win the Super Bowl. But that don't mean nothing for him. I mean, at the end of the day, if all's on his resume, he was Tom Brady's backup and he won a Super Bowl, that ain't nothing to be proud of.
Yet, when we have seen Bill Belichick cold-bloodedly just cut bait with a veteran before his time's up there, you think, what are you doing?
Lawyer Malloy.
Yeah. Does he gush about said veteran? Now, if they retire there, he'll gush.
Yes.
But usually when he cuts bait, he's on to Cincinnati,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yesterday, he gushed about this kid. He went on, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Jimmy. They're getting a good player. They're getting a good person. They're getting a talented individual, a great teammate, a great person to coach. He just went on and on and on because it was killing him to give this kid up.
Skip, I thought I was hearing things, so I DVR'd him. I said, you got to go back, because I noticed they Coach Belichick talking.
What?
And I was like, that is him. I said, somebody must be got a gun or something to his head making him say all these things, because he don't gush about anybody.
Well, virtually Tom Brady had a used to his head. Because Tom finally said, I'm sorry, I'm here. And I'm telling you, I'm going to be here for a while, so you better get used to it, and you better let that kid go and see what he can do in San Francisco.
Because you can't pay them both. He saw Mike Glennon get $15 million for 1 year. Somebody's going to have to pay Jimmy Garoppolo $15 to $20 million per season, and they're going to give him $45, $50 million, $60 million guaranteed, Skip. You can't pay that for a backup. I don't care how convinced you are he's a great bridge from Tom Brady moving forward to the future. You're not paying that kind of money for a backup. You just, it would destroy your team. You'd have to release, because Brandon Cook's going to want a contract. Remember, that's what got him out of New Orleans. He going to want a big contract.
So I continue to read these quotes from Tom Brady about his pliability. And I know this gets pretty in-depth with the fitness, but he's saying, I have figured out a new way to beat the system. And whether you buy it or not, because obviously he's one hit away from the end of his career, but he's saying he has figured out a way with longer muscles that absorb the blow. You don't tense up and tighten up. You just let your muscles flow with the hit. Just give into it and stay long.
That's instinct, Skip. It's just like saying, okay, when somebody do that in front of you, instinct is that your eyes blink. So when somebody driving Tom Brady in the ground, if you think he's totally relaxed, no, you're not, because he would not breathe.
Well,
I get it. Skip.
And I don't even, I hate to talk about this because I don't want to jinx him, so I'm going to knock on wood again. But I think even Belichick finally came around and said, you know what? Maybe he has figured something out that nobody's ever known, because at age 40, he's playing at as high a level as he's ever played at. And if he's saying 45, I think Belichick, because now the cupboard's bare at quarterback, right?
Yeah.
I think he's going with him for a couple of more years at the very least.
It doesn't matter if you and I believe it. Tom Brady believes it. And the strongest thing an athlete has going is his mind.
Oh.
Tom Brady believes that what he's doing has enabled him to play at an elite level longer. That's all that matters. You know, some athletes believe that drinking or going out partying the night before an event. Okay, do it. And that's what, hey, Mike was like, guys, whatever, going to the Super Bowl, Skip, you know, like, whatever your routine is, you stay in that routine. Don't you deviate. Well, Tom Brady believes that all this stretching and pliability, he ain't flexible like old Shea, because Shea used to do a split.
I think he is.
Joy, face down on the floor like this, hit leg spread. That's what I can do right now, Joy Taylor.
No, you cannot do that.
You won't bet nothing.
Not on those pants.
Oh, no, I ain't gonna do that.
30 years ago.
No, right
30,
now.
no,
Right
30.
now, Skip, right now. Sit on the floor like this and face down. On the floor like that. Stretch on the...
I'm going to bet on Tom Brady. That's just me.
Both of those knees got bad limbo
It is reporting that Brian Hoyer is visiting the Patriots today, which we pretty much expected.
Like, what are his options?
No mercy.
Dolphins linebacker Kiko Alonso will not be suspended for his hit on Joe Flacco last Thursday. Flacco scrambled and slid short of a first down, but took a forearm to the head from Alonso, resulting in a concussion. John Harbaugh said Flacco had no concussion symptoms this week, and there's a good chance he'll play Sunday against the Titans. We're joined by Fox NFL analyst Mark Schlereth. Welcome, Stink.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Should Alonso have been suspended?
No. It's a football game. I mean, guys fly around, guys try to make plays. And if you want your quarterbacks not to get concussions, then slide earlier. Get down on the ground. Don't fight for an extra yard. I mean, I've seen it happen on sidelines all the time where a defensive player actually starts to give up, and then the quarterback lowers his shoulder and runs into him. What are you supposed to do? You're playing defense. You're flying around. You're trying to make a play. It's a fast game. Unfortunately, guys get hurt. And so for me, no, I don't think he should have been suspended.
I vehemently disagree. I strenuously disagree. For the simple fact, you say you're trying to protect the quarterback. He's sliding. You hit him in the head. Even if you say, well, he slid, you still hit him in the head. And they suspend players defensively. He's like, I wasn't trying to hit him, but I was going, and he was trying to protect himself, and my helmet made contact. Doesn't matter. You hit him in the head. And Kiko Alonso, DJ, can we show this from a couple of years ago?
Yeah,
because
I want to see this.
I'm
excited
because we got somebody that has a history of doing something like this. Stink, you tell me what's going to go on. Tell me what's happening, Stink, and you watch this.
Okay, here we go.
Guess who it is? Oh, lo and behold, guess who it is? We're the exact same thing.
He's running with the football.
Right,
He's running with the football.
He's giving
He hit him shoulder to shoulder. You're using that as a repeat offense?
Either Brian Hoyer is a little person or my eyes are fooling me, Joy Taylor, because that ain't no shoulder to shoulder.
Is he running with the football?
Did he give himself up? He slid, Skip.
He put his arms out. He's trying. I mean,
is he sliding?
Yes.
He's not sliding.
And he's sliding late. You slide late, you're going to get hit. That's football. If we start to legislate contact out of a contact sport, you know what we're going to have? We're going to have flag football.
All I'm saying is they gave Danny Trevathan 2 games for a guy that was fighting for extra yards. He appealed it down to 1. Kiko Alonso, at the bare minimum, needs to get a 1-game suspension if you're serious about taking the head injuries out of the game. That's all.
I told you the day after this happened, there is no way he should be suspended, because, to reiterate, it was 3rd and 10 from the Dolphins' 20-yard line. The score was 13-0 in favor of the Ravens. The game is on the line. You're fighting to hold them to a 16-0 field goal instead of a 20-0 touchdown that would feel like game over. And Joe Flacco takes off and runs 9 yards and goes into a very late slide. But he didn't go into, speaking of baseball, the baseball kind of slide where you extend toes first. he sat straight up. He sat upright. He didn't go prone into the slide. He slid with his legs but kept his body upright because he was trying to force the football across the first down line so that they could keep the football.
Once you go into the slide, they mark it where the slide
where you start the slide.
Yes.
Yes.
So
yes.
where the ball is in his hand has nothing to do with it.
But he's actually trying to lean forward with the football in a quasi-slide that wasn't really a slide. You want to make it sort of look like a slide, but you know what a baseball slide is. It's feet first, and you start it 5 yards back of where you ended up. He was clearly trying to make the first down. And Kiko Alonso, it's the same premise of when a punt returner calls for a fair catch. You can't call for it at the last second and expect the guy to pull up because this is a last second, as Kiko said, a bang-bang play. And then he crunches down, and I don't know where you stop. You got to go for the football and try to stop him from getting across the first down line, and he hit his head. Well, it's inadvertent head contact to me. I don't know how you stop that. I don't know how you legislate that out of the game.
Then he shouldn't be fined then. So if there's nothing wrong with this play, why is he getting fined?
I didn't have any
You're getting fined because the rule says the onus is on you not to hit players in the head, even if they crunch down. I still don't think it's a suspendable offense. Is it a finable offense? I don't agree with the rule, but that's the way the rule is written. So yes, that part is throw the flag, fine the guy, but to take him off the football field for me for trying to make a football field play, to me is wrong. And you know this, when you get into a situation, you make a decision. Like I made a decision when I was pulling, and I was going to hit what, and my eyes were closed. I was just going to hit whatever, and I broke your face. So I mean that's the way that whole play went down. There's nothing I could do about it. Once I said, man, I'm going to bury my head in that pile.
Basically, that's what he did.
Yeah, I'm burying my head in that pile. Yeah.
And as Alex said,
Did they flag him for it?
No, Alex flagged him, said you're not pulling anymore.
It was friendly fire.
He's like, you're supposed to hurt their guys, not our guys.
But like the point is, I made a decision. Like there's a pile there, and I'm gonna blow something up, and it just happened to be.
All he had to do was pull. All he had to do was turn up in the hole.
Okay.
That's all he had to do. Skip. As Stink said, the onus is on the defender, not to hit the guy in the head. Okay. And once the guy gives, it's like in the pocket. If the guy gives it, you get the letters. You can't hit him in the knee. You can't hit him in his neck and shoulder area. You can't hit him. So this is basically in the pocket. This is what you get. When the quarterback starts to go into that slide, Skip, because here's the thing. If he dives and the ball pops out, nobody touches the ball, it's free. So that's the only way he can. You got to realize, Skip, plus Joe Flacco is 6'6". He's not going to look like Russell Wilson sliding at 5'10".
Yeah, he doesn't have that background either. But the point to me is, like, I don't like the rule if somebody tucks. It doesn't matter if he tucks. If he's protecting himself, doesn't matter. The onus is on the defense. So I hate the rule, but I understand the flag and I understand penalizing the guy. But to take guys off the field, in my mind, that are trying to make football plays, I wouldn't have taken Danny Trevathan off the field either, by the way.
Oh, yeah, you got to.
But, you know, I just don't agree with the rules the way they're written, but I certainly don't agree with suspending guys that, to me, don't have malicious intent, that are just trying to make football
I agree. Plays. And by the way, you did try to paint Kiko Alonso as a repeat offender, like he's one of those gray area players. He's never been fined. He's never been suspended. And the play that you showed on Hoyer, I don't think that qualifies as egregious, as repeat offender.
No.
He did it. See, here's the thing. Intent only matters to the offender. The victim is just as injured. There's no, intent, murder, manslaughter. The victim is just as dead, whether you intended to or not. But that only matters to the offender.
So now you're comparing what Kiko did to manslaughter.
No, I'm saying intent. Intent only matters to the offender.
But Shannon, I think you can see the difference between a guy flying around and hitting somebody and Vontaze Burfict doing some of the things that he does.
Oh, yeah. Everything he does is cheap.
Right.
It's dirty. You just say, man.
Like, how are you, like, to me, you want to keep the player safe. It's not plays like that. It's like, don't let that guy continue to do the things he does on a consistent basis. I mean, he's always poking people, kicking people.
So, okay, Vontaze intentionally hit Antonio Brown. He's out of the game. Kiko Alonso inadvertently hit Joe Flacco. He's out of the game. Tell me what's the difference. Both out of the game.
Well, one is an implication that it's dirty, and
Intent.
one is something.
But are the victims
But that's
still
what
out of the game?
That's what they're judging, though. That's what the NFL has to
Right.
determine.
How do we know Kiko, like, I'm finna blow him up? How do we know what his men's rate, the mind? How do we know what Kiko was thinking?
I don't know what Kiko was thinking, but I will tell you this. I will tell you this. There is an urgency when, and I've been here, and I've been fined one time in my whole career, and it's the ugliest play that I'm embarrassed to say it, but my guy was about to make a tackle on a draw, and I missed him, and I dove
Over
with the
the
back
back
of
of
his legs, and I cut him in half, and it was in a preseason game, of all things. But when your dude is about to make a play, when that dude's about to make a first down, and you know the game is on the line, like you said, we're about out of this thing at 13-0, and we've got the worst offense in the history of offense, and I got to try to make a play. Like, my mind goes like, I'm just going to go make that play, and results be damned, because that's what I've got to do.
And Kiko's a good guy. I was surprised that they didn't throw him from the game just because of how visually it looked.
Well,
but
the helmet came off and it
in
tore
the ear,
Flacco's
yeah. So and it's Joe Flacco. But Mark, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
No mercy.
Yesterday, the initial college football playoff rankings were released, and Alabama is not number 1. Georgia took the top spot, followed by Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson. Oklahoma and Ohio State are sitting just outside the top 4. As we mentioned, the Sooners have a huge game on Saturday against Oklahoma State, while the Buckeyes are coming off their incredible win against Penn State. We're joined by Joel Klatt, who was at Ohio State last week and will be in Oklahoma this week. Welcome, Joel.
Good couple of weeks, right?
What was your biggest problem with the rankings?
You know, first off, I didn't have a major problem with the ranking. I think this was the first ranking in a long time. And remember, this committee kind of turns over. There's new people on this committee each and every year now, as kind of 4 roll off, 4 roll on. This was as good of a ranking as I can remember, based on what the objective really is, which in my mind is allow the kids to be rewarded for what happens on the field. Having said that, the biggest, I think, glaring weakness in the top 4 was Clemson. Clemson is living off of Deshaun Watson right now in the last 2 national championship game runs. One of them they won, obviously, last year with that brilliant performance by their quarterback. But if you look at what they've done actually this year, their wins that were so-called great wins early, they have lost some of their luster, and they've been diminished the way that Auburn, and in particular Louisville, have played down the stretch. And then if you just look at their games and actually watch their film, look at some of the numbers. Since the Virginia Tech win, they're only averaging 337 yards per game. This is an offense that's 73rd in total offense ever since then. So they have not been the same.
Quarterback has not been healthy.
The quarterback has a bum ankle. He had a head injury that he was dealing with. But I just didn't think Clemson was the one that I would have put in there. If anybody, I thought Ohio State, if you were looking at the eye test, should have been actually included. But then you bring into the equation, are they ahead of Oklahoma after the game head-to-head? So the reason that they put Clemson at 4 and Ohio State behind Oklahoma was because of the Oklahoma-Ohio State game. I can't argue too much with that outside of the Clemson aspect.
Go ahead, Skip.
The eye test right now tells me that I'm with you. Ohio State, now again, I'm a bit of a prisoner of the game that you called so beautifully. It was something, and J.T. Barrett is playing at an extremely high level.
Heisman level.
Heisman level since that debacle that they suffered at the hands of my Oklahoma Sooners back on, what was it, September 9th? So it was a while back. But I still say, when we get to the end of the year, the win of the year in college football will be Oklahoma at Ohio State. I think you'll look back and say that's the most impressive single game of the year when all is said and done, and it's going to bode well for the Oklahoma Sooners if they can win out. No small task, but you're going to see the first one, Bedlam, on Saturday, right? You're going to be at that game.
I'll be at Bedlam. That's right. They go to Oklahoma State.
And then they got TCU, and then they still got to deal with West Virginia, and then I'm hoping they get a second crack at Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. And now the Iowa State game doesn't look quite such a debacle as I said it was here on the show, because they're starting to rise.
They beat TCU.
They were legit.
I have no problem with the ranking, but I'm going to tell you what's going to be very, very interesting, Skip. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, Alabama wins out, Georgia wins out. They meet in the SEC title game. Now, one of those teams obviously is going to win. So you're going to have an undefeated SEC team and a one-loss SEC team What do you do then, Joel?
Well,
If I'm on the committee, I argue that you got to win your conference champion. I would put conference championships really high on my criteria level, which would push the loser of that game down, and you'd have a real argument there with that 4 or 5 spot. But in that case, here's what's so interesting is that if Bama is the team that wins that, then it's not just Georgia that's diminished, but also Notre Dame. So you could have a total flip-up of what's going on in the top 4 just based on the Georgia-Alabama game, or perceivably that's going to be that.
Then Penn State's going to say, well, hold my tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Ohio State didn't win jack last year, and we got to go to the Rose Bowl, and they went to the college playoff.
That second loss killed them.
Don't be that's going to be very interesting. I was surprised that, I mean, they put a lot of weight in that Notre Dame win to put Georgia over Alabama. Now, because they beat Florida State. Now, Florida State had a healthy Francois for 3/4 of the ball game. But I think when it's all said and done, they play LSU, who's ranked. They're going to play Auburn, who's ranked. I think at the end of the year, Alabama will be number 1. Georgia probably will stay number 2. But that's going to be very interesting.
So you'd put them both in, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You think so?
Hold on. You think a one-loss Alabama's not making the college playoffs?
I think Alabama would if Georgia were to win that game. I don't know if Georgia would. And remember now, the SEC has lost its luster now over the last couple of years. Think about what's happened in this playoff era. We've had 7 teams of the 12 playoff teams. 7 of them came to the playoff from outside of the initial top 4 in the initial rankings. That means 7 had to fall out. Well, 5 of those 7 that fell out from the initial rankings to the playoff were SEC teams. And so there's this luster that's starting to get lost. The shine is a little bit off of that diamond outside of Georgia and Alabama. So we're not going to see the same power. We're not going to see the same argument that maybe you would get a couple of SEC teams in previous years.
But Georgia and Alabama loaded.
They are loaded.
They loaded.
I tell you what, but I will argue this: if you're going to diminish Wisconsin for what they have done and their schedule, you have to do it to Alabama. Alabama's schedule is not anywhere close to good at this point.
I agree.
And when you look at the schedule makeup, they only play 9 Power 5 games, 2 games against Group of 5 teams, and an FCS opponent, and they're mixed up in a fashion which makes it much more easy to navigate for Nick Saban. I will tell you this. Alabama's a great team. If they go undefeated, they should absolutely be included in the playoff. But that is a precarious schedule to have a loss. If they end up losing, I don't know if Alabama can overcome that, because that schedule is terrible.
But here's the thing. Everybody looks at Alabama. They say they start the season, they'll play anybody, anywhere. USC, Wisconsin, Florida State, it does not matter. You tell me the team that will start their season playing anybody, anywhere other than Alabama.
I think there's a caveat on that. We'll play anybody, anywhere, as long as it's within 500 square miles and a neutral site. They won't go places. They will not go play at USC. They will not go play at Texas or at Ohio State. They'll play a neutral.
Yeah.
That's very different than anyone, anywhere.
When Ohio State going to do that?
Ohio State is going to TCU next year. They played Oklahoma in a home and home this last couple of years. USC and Texas are going back and forth in their home and home. What do you mean about
when you the king?
When's the last time Alabama went and played somebody in the Power 5 in their place outside of the SEC footprint?
St. Nick says, look here. When I'm on Lake Burton and my big old boat, you got a big old lake house on Lake Burton, Skip. Yeah. Hey, they call him up. Nick, you want to play me? Where we playing at? I either play you in Atlanta or I'll play you in Dallas, Texas.
That's it. That's the only places. I'll play anybody anywhere as long as it's Dallas or Atlanta.
Right, so I got to give it up to Ain't Nick just once, because I'm going off eye test. What have I seen so far in college football? I have seen Alabama. I have seen Georgia. They are legitimately loaded and good.
Yeah, they
and
are.
I give you the schedule because I don't like the schedule.
Yeah.
But my eye test tells me it's a really good football team with a quarterback playing at a much higher level than you guys thought he was playing at the end of the year last year.
Yes, he's
right?
developed.
Yes.
And then Ohio State is legit. I knew they were going to be legit. They weren't ready for the Oklahoma Sooners on September 9th. Now they're ready for anybody. So they're the 3rd best team. It may be competitive with those 2. And then Notre Dame looks real to me.
Yeah.
They just look real. They look physical. They look like they can run the ball down your throat. And they play better defense than the Oklahoma Sooners do. The problem, you're going to see another shootout. I bet you're going to see a 45-44 game.
I would not be surprised, and that's the one thing about Oklahoma. Listen, I think Oklahoma's got a shot. because of Baker Mayfield against anybody.
Anybody.
Right? This kid he's phenomenal. He's like the magic man out there.
And look, Lamar's tremendous to watch, but Baker is the most exciting player in college football.
This year
just because he's just crazy. You don't know what he might try or what he might pull off.
He's phenomenal. There's no doubt about that. Defense scares the heck out of me.
It's terrible.
You can't rely on it, in particular when you're going to go against a guy like Mason Rudolph or Will Greer down the stretch against West Virginia. So Oklahoma's got their work cut out for them. If they were to run the table, I would certainly believe that they're going to be.
You realize they barely survived at Baylor?
I'm well aware.
They got to score 50 just to outscore Baylor.
Well, Kirby Smart built him in Alabama at Georgia.
He did.
He got the same premise of how, but you're not in the lineup in the eye and run the ball down Nick Saban's throat. No. I give you Ezekiel Elliott. That's an anomaly.
That was 230.
If you think,
230 yards.
But what did he have? He had Cordell Jones who could make plays outside the pocket. He could throw the ball.
And they throw it down the field.
But if you think we finna play power football, you're not running the ball on St. Nick.
I will give Georgia credit in this. Jake Fromm, who's just kind of an afterthought, he's the true freshman quarterback.
Yes.
Yep.
He's leading the country in third down passing efficiency. That's something now. Because if you can stay on the field, and that's what Clemson proved last year in the national championship. If you can stay on the field, they snapped it 99 times. Guess what happened in the last 15 snaps of the game? That front seven for Alabama was nowhere to be found. So that's an interesting context to keep in mind when you're thinking about that Georgia-Alabama matchup.
St. Nick keeper stank, though, Skip. You already know.
I know he stanks it up in big games.
Wow. The college playoff is the Alabama Invitational because you know every year who's going to be there. The Alabama Invitational.
No mercy.
The Cavs have dropped 3 straight and are now 3-4 to start the season. This prompted a team meeting yesterday where Ty Lue said they could air out their issues. The Cavs have lost the last 3 games by a total of 46 points. Yesterday, Lue said, off the court, we've got great chemistry, great bond. Just on the court, we just got to be better, like talking, communicating, enjoying the game together, having fun. Right now, guys are not having fun. We're joined by Rob Parker. Welcome, Rob.
What's happening? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Is this a sign of things to come?
False alarm, please stop it.
Alarm?
It's a false alarm, yes. Because there's no one in the way in the East long term. Are they off to a bumpy start? Yes. Did they have like the worst to lose to the Nets and the Knicks?
Yeah,
right?
terrible.
And that's terrible. So I get that. But to have a team meeting and, oh, my God, it's the end of the world and they're not going to be okay come the end of the season is ridiculous. They will be just fine. The only thing I got to ask you is, LeBron, with all the videos he was making about, with this and the muscles and all that. So was that fake? Was that all fake to make music videos? Because he's saying he's out of shape. He's not ready to go.
He hurt his ankle in training camp. He made those videos before training camp, Rob. You and Skip, I can tell y'all been partners for a long time because both of y'all got it in your heart. That hate. Y'all need to get it out.
Wait, even if your ankle's hurt, you can sit on a stationary bike and stay in fine cardio shape.
No, you can't.
Just high level.
Ain't nothing like
pedal with one leg.
You gonna play on one leg?
No, even with a bad ankle, trust me, you can pedal with both.
Skip, let me tell you something about cardiovascular. And you know this. There's nothing like being in the shape that the sport that you play. You can run all the sprints you want, but until you put that helmet and shoulder pads on and start running around, it's a totally different ballgame.
Does he look out of shape to you? Seriously.
But he knows he's
Kevin
not
Love, I'll give you. He looks a little pudgy.
No, he doesn't. Kevin Love, Kev done lost too much weight, look like to me. First of all, instead of a team meeting, how about a team practice? Defense. Stop giving up all those threes per game. How about play a little defense? Get down on the chair and slide your feet. And stop giving up 110 points a game.
How's Dwyane Wade working out?
But I ain't worried about it.
You told me you were all happy about that. Dwyane Wade was coming. It was going to be kumbaya reunion.
Actually,
how's
their
that?
second unit featuring Dwyane has been pretty
No,
good.
but he was originally going to be the starter, and we talked about it.
We're gonna give him like 18, 20 minutes a game, Rob. He's gonna give us 10 to 12 points. That's all we need.
So LeBron was wrong when he put him in the starting lineup.
That wasn't LeBron. That was Ty Lue.
No, that was LeBron.
Ty Lue is the assistant coach.
You know what? I'm done with y'all. I'm out on y'all. Go ahead, Skip. Y'all too.
Shannon Sharpe.
What?
Seriously. From my heart, you need to face a fact.
What?
Your man, Shannon Sharpe, your man, LeBron James, is aging. And it happens to the best of them. Not to Tom
Except
Brady.
Tom
but-
Brady.
I was going to say, there you go. I knew that was coming. Oh, not Tom.
Tom Brady is 7 years older than LeBron.
Right.
7.
LeBron is in his 15th season. and Tom, I don't know what Tom's in, but he actually went to college for 4 years, and LeBron didn't go to college. Way to go, LeBron, because he was really good at age 18. He belonged in the NBA. But that meant that he got a way earlier start on Tom Brady. Tom Brady didn't even play his first year, obviously, in New England. It was his second year that he was the starting quarterback.
Once they got the video, he started playing.
Well, they might have the walk through the Cardinals walk. I mean the Rams walk through. Yeah. So.
And Carolina.
I'm not fighting that. I think there was something going on there. Okay, but that wasn't Tom Brady's doing. That was the head coach's doing.
Did he benefit?
Yes, you could argue he benefited. Okay, so back to your man. He is in his 15th season. And unlike Michael Jordan, as he got into his later years, LeBron is focusing on offense over defense. I'm not seeing the disruptive defender I used to see from LeBron James. And he is not setting a tone for his team the way he used to. And so, to me, this isn't a blip. That's why I think there is some reason to panic. It's a trend because the last 46 games last year, they went 23-23, albeit in the regular season, and they get to play in the weakest conference in the history of conferences, the Eastern Conference, and it got even weaker in the offseason.
Yes.
So they benefit from the cakewalk that is the East. But last year, they finished during the regular season 22nd. They were tied with the Brooklyn Nets, 22nd for defensive efficiency. That's not very good. Right now, they're one better than the Nets. They're at the bottom of the conference in defensive efficiency, except the Nets are a little worse.
And they lost to the Nets.
And they lost to the Nets. And they've been losing to bad teams. And I agree with you. You can't panic because it's just October and they started 3-4. And they're obviously a very good team, but they're not nearly good enough to cope with whoever wins the West. So the defense will only catch up with them in the NBA Finals.
There's no doubt, but Skip, when you look at them, do you doubt coming out of the East that it won't be the Cavaliers? I can't be convinced of anything else. And last year they were the second seed, not even the first seed, and then they almost swept through the playoffs, right? I mean, until they ran into Boston, and Boston won a couple of games. But they had a cakewalk.
Boston is even better than I thought Boston would be. Obviously now without Gordon Hayward, but they're now at the top of the East, and I think they're pretty good. Should they be able to beat LeBron and Dwyane? Because when it's time, Dwyane will contribute in the postseason. I'm the biggest Dwyane Wade fan. He will come clutch when it's time.
Skip, if you think about this, since LeBron has had that back injury, he doesn't play defense like he once did. If you notice, when he's on the sideline, he sits in that high cushion chair. He can't sit down in the chair on defense and play like he once
I thought he was Iron Man.
No.
Skip. So now he's got a back injury on top of an ankle injury?
You know he had that back injury a couple of years ago, Skip. Now you need to stop playing. You make it seem like the man just.
I don't remember anything.
Well,
that
I remember
debilitating. You know.
I remember he took
career threatening.
You need to stop.
Well, come on,
Skip. The man is averaging 25, 10, and 6, 25, 10, and 7. Did I lucky slow it? Okay, tell me what guy in the history of the NBA at any year wouldn't be happy with 25, 10, and 7, Rob Parker?
No, you would take that, absolutely.
So what about a guy in year 15? Would he take that?
Of course he would, but you also know that just looking at this team, the way it's constructed, they got no shot to win a championship. No, would you say that?
They got a whole
shot.
They got a whole bunch of pieces that look individually, they look good. But when you put all these ingredients together, like LeBron is ice cream, and then Kevin Love is like mashed potatoes, and D. Wade is like cookies. I mean, and gravy and all. You're like, oh man, I like gravy. I like cookies. Jordan loves ice cream. But then if you put all that stuff together, you're like, ugh, I don't want that. And that's what when you look at this team, you're like,
they couldn't win. They got lost in a 5-game sweep last year. LeBron averaged a triple-double. He can't play any better than that, and I just don't.
Tell him again what LeBron did.
But they allowed 122 a game through those 5 games, and in the 2 previous series against Golden State, they allowed 101 points a game.
Can you tell him that they got Kevin Durant?
I don't care.
Kevin Durant.
Defend him. Defend him.
Skip.
Come on, LeBron.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron did average a triple-double, but he's also the GM and the coach.
Stop it, Joy Taylor. Was he that in Miami?
He had to leave Miami. No, he wasn't.
He
but
left.
they won 2 championships. And
he took his talents
back
home.
He had to go back home. And
have y'all
he was in charge of it. So
have y'all gotten to the finals since he left?
This is the gravy and the ice cream and the
have you gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals
and the broccoli
since he left?
that he put together? Is
have
it not?
You gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals since he left?
Is
So
it
I
not?
guess he's a pretty good GM, huh, Rob Parker?
I'm
just can't win a
wondering.
championship. That's
He already won one.
Well, he ain't gonna win again.
No mercy.
Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. Join us again the same time tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern. We'll see you then.
Fox Sports. One of one.